Hey guys, in today's video, we go over the best controller settings in Modern Warfare 2. Whether you're a beginner or you've been playing Call of Duty for a few years, these settings will apply to every player in the game. Let's get into it. Alright, so in your controller settings, the first thing that we want to change is our button layout. So what everyone first starts off with is the default button layout, right? But this is not the best setting. So what I would recommend is going to either bumper jumper tactical or stick and move. And bumper jumper tactical is what I personally use. And the reason why I recommend these two is because with default, you can see here that to jump, or if you want to prone or crouch or slide, you would have to take your thumb off your analog stick, right? And that can be pretty clunky or pretty slow. And what you really want to do is when you go to these two options, bumper jumper tactical or stick and move, you can see here that our jump button changes to our L1 button, right? And to slide or to crouch, it goes to our analog stick, right? So this really helps if you're in the heat of a battle. You can either jump, you can jump around a corner, and you don't have to take off your thumb off the analog stick. So this really helps when you're in a fight, right? With stick and move, it's very similar, except you jump with your analog stick and then you pretty much just melee with your X button, right? So I would play around with these two settings. For me personally, I like bumper jumper tactical. The only thing is, if you do want to say melee or use your tactical, that's when you would have to take your thumb off your analog stick. But for me, I think that's a good trade-off. And honestly, this pretty much just changed how I play, right? So I would recommend bumper jumper tactical or stick and move. Now, after that setting, we can either choose to flip our trigger buttons. For me, I leave this off. For stick layout preset, for me, I leave it on default. I mean, this is really up to you if you like these settings, but for me, it honestly feels super weird, and you might be a weirdo if you actually pick some of these ones, right? But I pick default. Controller vibration, we want to leave this off. So when you shoot or when you're getting shot at, you actually feel the vibration in your hands, and this can be one, very distracting, and two, this can throw off your aim just a little bit, right? So if you're trying to get better, we want to leave this off, right? But if you want immersion and you're playing single player, then sure, leave it on. But in terms of multiplayer and being competitive in the game, we want to leave this off. All right, so next is our horizontal and vertical stick sensitivity. So for me, I play at a 7 for both settings. If you're a beginner and you're first starting out, I would probably play at 4 to the 6 range. But then when you start, getting better and you want to maybe turn on people a lot faster, I would play at maybe a 6, 7, or 8. For me, 7 is the perfect sweet spot for me. I would maybe test it out on a few games, maybe play it for like a few days, right? When you start going into a higher sensitivity, if you start noticing that you are overshooting or if your centering is kind of off, then maybe it might be better for you to stick at a lower sensitivity, right? So that's pretty much what I recommend. I would probably never go higher than a 10, right? It might look pretty fancy when you're playing, right? But in terms of actually playing competitively, most people stick with below 8, right? So take it how you wish, but like I said, if you are a beginner, I would stick at a lower sensitivity, and then as you get better, you can play around with the higher sense. ADS sensitivity multiplier, right now this is disabled because my custom sense is set to on, which we'll go over in the advanced tab. Sensitivity multiplier, I leave this on at default. These are all the vehicles and stuff, so this honestly doesn't really matter. Vertical aim axis, this is all on default as well. So your aim down sight behavior. So I have no idea who puts this on toggle. This should always be on hold. Automatic sprint. So there's really two options here pretty much 3 options here that you can pick. If you don't like automatic sprinting at all, then you can leave this to off, but then you'll pretty much be super slow moving around the map. And then there's automatic sprint and automatic tactical. So with Modern Warfare or any COD multiplayers, the time to kill is super quick, right? And if you're caught doing an automatic tactical sprint in a gunfight, pretty much you would lose 9 out of 10 times, right? So if you find yourself getting caught doing attack sprint, then I would probably just stick with the automatic sprint, right? For me personally, I like running fast. I like doing automatic tac sprint, right? But if you find yourself that you're dying most fights because you are getting caught with the gun running up, then I would pick automatic sprint. Equipment behavior, I leave this on hold. Weapon mount activation, so there's two things here that you can pick, right? So there's either ADS plus melee or double tap ADS. For me, I like double tap ADS. I find it's just a little bit quicker. Yeah, honestly, it's really your preference. Interact reload behavior, I pick prioritize reload. So pretty much if I am maybe in front of a munitions box, right? When I want to reload, it would prioritize that instead of picking up the ammunition box, right? So really up to you. You can pick this or tap to reload. Armored plate behavior, I pick apply all. All right, so now going over to the advanced tab. So the first thing here that we can change is our aim assist, right? So for target aim assist, obviously we want to leave this on. If you play this with off and you're on controller, you're crazy. So leave this on. All right, so for aim assist type, we have default, precision, focusing, or black ops. So honestly, the two best options here are either black ops or default. So I would play around with these two options. Some people are saying black ops feels better. Other people are saying default is more consistent for them, right? So I would play around with them. The reason why we don't want to pick precision or focusing is because it doesn't have rotational aim assist, right? And if we test it out over here, right? And right now we're in default, right? So if I strafe left and right, you can kind of see my operator kind of turn a little bit, just a little bit, right? However, if you go on like say precision, you actually do not get any rotational aim assist. And rotational aim assist is really the kind of overpowered part about aim assist, right? And what most mouse and key players complain about. So I would honestly not pick any of these two options. However, if you are like maybe sniping, you might find that precision or focusing might be a little bit stickier, because right now we're on precision, right? And if you can kind of see here, like I'm applying some pressure to the analog stick and then it starts to slow down and it's pretty sticky over here, right? However, there is a small aim assist bubble here, right? However, on say default, you'll see here that the aim assist bubble is a little bit larger, but less sticky. So see, it starts to slow down a lot farther than the target, but it's just a little bit less sticky. So most players, they either pick default or black ops, right? So that's what I would recommend. All right, so the next thing that we can change is our aim response curve type. So there are three options here. There's standard, linear, and dynamic. And I'll go over three of the options over here. So with standard is you have like a pretty precise but slow kind of aim when you look around, right? However, you can actually ramp up your speed of your aim based on how much you push your thumb off the joystick, right? So there's like a simple slow curve, but you can see here that it actually goes a lot faster, right? Like this is with me putting my thumb all the way to the right, and it's pretty fast, right? So that's standard, and that's what a lot of people play with. For linear, there is no slowdown or build up. Like this is like whether I put a lot of pressure or not, it's pretty much just like a raw one-to-one input, right? So I don't think a lot of players use this option, but it's there. And the last one, and it's what I personally play with and a lot of other high-level players play with as well, is dynamic. So just like standard, there is a ramp up. However, with the aim, you can have the same precise aim movement, but there's like the buildup is actually a lot faster, and you can also snap on players pretty quick as well, right? So I would pick dynamic because honestly it just feels a lot better for me. All right, so the next setting that we can change is ADS sense multiplier when you're focused. So for me, I leave this at 1. So this is really when you're using a sniper and you hold your breath. For me, it would kind of throw off my my aim a little bit because it suddenly just changes. You can play around with this. You can make this a little bit lower if you want, but we can actually just change those settings in this setting over here, right? So for me, I leave this on 1. ADS sensitivity, transition timing, always instant. And for your custom sense per zoom, this is what I have, right? So when I am, say, using a close range weapon like an SMG, I would have our setting just a little bit lower. I have this at 0.9, right? And say if I'm using like a higher zoomed optic, then that's when I make it a little bit lower. So for you, I would play around with the settings. If you find that you're kind of maybe overshooting, like say if you are missing your target by just a little bit, right? I would maybe just make this a little bit lower, right? And for me, these settings work out for me. These will be different for everyone just based on how comfortable you are with your sensitivity. All right, so the next setting that we can change is our dead zone. So this is pretty important. So every controller is different, right? So if you have like an old controller and you start noticing a bit of drift, then that's when you would need to change the left stick or the right stick dead zone. So for me, I'm using a relatively new controller and there is barely any drift at all, right? So let's just see if we start getting drift if I put this on the lowest. So honestly, I'm not getting any drift at all. So I can actually just leave this on 0, right? But if you start noticing that your operator is either maybe moving forwards just a little bit like this, or maybe to the left a little bit like this, then that's when you would need to change your dead zone. I would probably keep increasing it by 1 every time, or by 0.01 every time until your operator stops moving left or right or backwards or forwards, right? Same thing with the right stick minimum. So if your aim starts like moving around like this, just very slightly, then that's when you would need to increase your dead zone for that setting. But for me, like I said, I'm using a pretty new controller, so that's why my dead zone is pretty low. For your left stick max and your right stick max, so this is like the full range of motion for your analog stick. The reason why we want to keep the left stick on max is you might find that your movement is actually just a little bit snappier when you move forwards or backwards or strafe left and right, and you don't need to use the full range of motion for your movement with your analog stick. So this might feel a little bit better for you. For your right stick max, this is to do with our aiming. For me, I play around with 0.95 or 1. And the reason why we want to use our full range of motion is we want to be very precise with our aim, right? So if you leave this lower, I think this would actually hurt your aiming a little bit. So we want to leave this on the max possible setting. For your left and right trigger, so this is pretty much controls how much delay that we get when we press our left or right trigger. There's no reason why we want to increase this. We want to put this all the way to 0. So put 0 for left and right trigger. Now scrolling down, we have these settings over here. So my setting over here is by default set to toggle. Right at the moment, right now it's locked because I have my automatic sprint set to automatic tack sprint. So depending on your setting, I would still leave this on toggle. So auto move forward, always leave this on off. Tactical sprint behavior, I have mine from single grounded mantle, automatic airborne mantle, and automatic ground mantle. These should all be off. These settings, when you have it on or partial, these settings can kind of mess you up during a gunfight. So we always want to leave these off. Invert and slide dive behavior, leave this on standard. Plunging underwater, this is movement. Parachute auto deploy is on. Sprinting door bash is on. Honestly, there's really no point if you want to leave this off. If you want to play more sneakily, which honestly, it's multiplayer, doesn't really matter. You can put this on off if you want, but I have this on. ADS stick swap, leave this on off. Backpack alternate control, leave this on off. Weapon mount exit delay, keep this on short. By default, I think this is on medium, right? So there's really no point why we want a delay or a longer delay. So I put this on short. Depleted ammo weapon switch, I have this on. Honestly, it's on, doesn't really matter. If you wanted this on off, you can, but I just have it on default on. Quick C4 detonation, we leave this on off. And onto vehicle behavior. So everything here is by default. I don't really feel a need to change them. Short delay for the vehicle camera recenter, and for the camera initial position, it is free look. For scoreboard and map behavior, this is toggle, and for the ping wheel delay and the double tap danger ping delay, I have it both on moderate. And that is it for the controller settings. If you also want the best graphic settings to optimize your FPS and also improve your visibility, I also have another video that I created about the best graphic settings in Modern Warfare 2 that will pop up in the video right now. So if you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and hopefully this video helped. Peace.